This is Matthew Cratter from Trader University, and today I want to answer the question, did Elon Musk just kill Bitcoin? Obviously, everyone's talking about this latest tweet from Elon in which he announces that Tesla has suspended vehicle purchases using Bitcoin due to their concern about, quote unquote, the rapidly increasing use of fossil fuels for Bitcoin mining. On an optimistic note, Elon Musk did mention that Tesla will not be selling any Bitcoin, and we intend to use it for transactions as soon as mining transitions to more sustainable energy. So this is a little bit of a hedged statement. That being said, he followed it up with another tweet talking about Bitcoin's energy consumption and how the trend is insane. Now, one thing to point out that this is the same Elon Musk who wants to make humanity a multi-planet species. Energy usage in itself is not bad, I would argue. Making humanity into a multi-planet species uses a lot of energy. Launching those rockets into space uses a lot of energy as well. And so energy usage itself is not the problem. And if you want to know what kind of civilization does not use a lot of energy, this is the kind of civilization. And this is not something that anyone wants to return to, or people who are living in these kind of conditions. They want to live like first world developed countries. This is the future that Musk envisions. And this is not a civilization or a future that does not use a lot of energy. So I have a problem, and I've made videos about this, Bitcoin and the energy police. The biggest problem I have with the criticism of Bitcoin's energy usage is that the people who do it often do not disclose or audit their own energy usage. It's unfair to criticize Bitcoin's energy usage without considering the larger context, because all life and all civilizations use a lot of energy. The same people who criticize Bitcoin's energy usage, a lot of them, if you know who they are, I'm not going to mention names, they own 6 houses and they fly around on private jets. And this is the same Davos crowd who is urging everyone to start eating insects while they keep eating steak. The other irony, of course, is that these people use what's a highly energy intensive project, which is the internet, to launch their critiques of high energy usage. And hypocritically, these same people, in addition to never giving you an audit of their own personal energy usage, they never criticize the current system for its energy usage. If you want to look at what is needed under the current fiat system to secure wealth and to try to grow it, and grow it at a rate that exceeds the rate of inflation and money printing, you have entire parts of major cities. You have the financial district in LA and in New York. This does not look to me like an energy solution that is sustainable or that anyone wants. And we have the same financial districts, obviously, in Hong Kong and London and all around the world. This is the current fiat financial system, and it's very expensive to build and to maintain, especially when you think of the kind of proof of work that the US government needs to do to keep the US dollar going. So back in 2000, when Saddam Hussein insisted on moving from selling his oil for dollars to selling it for euros, this led to a proof of work operation that was called war, in which the US spent $6.4 trillion in Iraq and in Afghanistan and Pakistan. This cost US taxpayers, or I should say US Treasury holders, because there's a lot of debt issued to fund this, $6.4 trillion. So what is the carbon footprint of a 20-year war? What is the human cost? What is the financial cost? The critics who are supposedly so worried about Bitcoin never address this context. And this is the current system that they would like to keep going, because a lot of these people are obviously fiat millionaires and billionaires. But the current system is very wasteful, both in terms of energy and human life. Here's a rough comparison of the yearly energy costs of the US banking, of the global banking system, of governments, paper currency and minting, gold mining, etc., all these alternatives compared to Bitcoin mining. And I believe this is a slightly old tally, but the same principles apply. And if you look around, how much human energy and how much time is spent trying to store value in the face of a central bank or central banks that are trying to devalue the value of fiat currency. So their whole industries set up to help people invest, whether it's in stocks or real estate or gold or anything else, to try to preserve wealth. And the system we have is crazy because it's a little bit like swimming upstream, where you're just trying to preserve the fruits of your labor while the Fed money printers and other central bank money printers are trying to devalue it. That's the insanity of the system. And for once, the people who criticize Bitcoin's energy usage, I would like to hear them address both the fiat financial system's waste of time and energy. We always see these articles about Bitcoin using more energy than entire countries. US Christmas lights use more energy than entire countries. And maybe we should not have Christmas lights. Maybe we should. I personally think that if you want to have Christmas lights, no one should stop you from doing it. You're paying for the electricity, and the electricity police should not be telling you what to do with it. Posting on Twitter might be a worse use of electricity than decorating your home. I'm not going to decide for people. People can use their money and their electricity on whatever they want, as far as I'm concerned. We've already established that advanced civilizations use a lot of energy, and I would say that I agree with the fact that we should be moving towards energy sources that don't pollute the water, that don't pollute the air, or that don't cause global warming. If in fact global warming is a thing, I'm a bit agnostic either way. That being said, I like clean air, I like clean water. I live in Colorado, obviously, and this is one of the reasons that I do. This transition, as Musk himself understands, this transition from using a lot of traditional energy, a lot of fossil fuels-based energy, to using cleaner, more renewable sources, this is not an overnight transition. Musk understands this. He's mentioned it many times in the context of Tesla. Obviously, to make those lithium batteries for Tesla cars, this is what you have to do to the earth. This is not sustainable, and this is not a pretty picture, especially because these mines are almost always in developing countries. So it's really people in these poorer, more developing countries that suffer from the environmental degradation and what this does to the air in terms of getting toxic chemicals, toxic dust in the air, etc. This is what Bitcoin mining looks like. Take another look. Lithium mining and Bitcoin mining. One of them is very clean. The Bitcoin mining is much cleaner. Now, Bitcoin mining can obviously use electricity that's produced by coal. It can also use electricity that's produced by renewables, by wind, solar, hydroelectric. So I would suggest that Elon understands all these things, and his tweet was more something that he was forced to do by large shareholders in Tesla who were threatening to dump their shares because they didn't like him accumulating Bitcoin for the balance sheet. ESG, obviously environmental, social, governance investing, it's one of the latest fads or marketing things in terms of how big institutions invest their money. And some of what it's pushing for is obviously good. Some of it, I would say, is more virtue signaling. But I would suggest that here Elon has given in and sort of reversed his position because he bought a lot of Bitcoin, and now it's hard to imagine he didn't understand the energy situation of Bitcoin when he bought it, and now he's being forced to tweet this and defend his company. Ironically, doing more transactions with Bitcoin, i.e. buying a Tesla car, does not increase the energy usage of Bitcoin. The energy that's used is used to secure the network, and more transactions or higher price transactions do not burn more electricity. So that's why I would say this is virtue signaling, because not selling cars, Tesla cars for Bitcoin is not going to decrease the energy usage of Bitcoin. If Tesla is so worried about dirty money or money that's backed by coal or non-renewable energy sources, Why doesn't Tesla stop accepting US dollars too while it's at it? What is the environmental impact of the US dollar? And why does Tesla use batteries that are charged using electricity produced by coal? Obviously, I like the direction Tesla's moving, but there are these compromises. We don't live in a perfect, idealized world. And Musk understands this. He's a brilliant, brilliant guy. But I think his life mission, obviously, is to get us into space. Tesla and SpaceX are two ways of doing this. These are Elon's real babies, not Bitcoin. And so he's willing to stab Bitcoiners in the back to protect Tesla from its ESG shareholders. And he's willing to betray Bitcoiners and betray Bitcoin. I find it pathetic. You would think that one of the world's richest men would be able to have the guts to stand up for something like this. But you never know what's going on behind the scenes. Interesting, as I mentioned, that Tesla's not selling off any of their Bitcoin that's on the balance sheet, nor did Elon mention that he's selling his own personal holdings of Bitcoin, and he has admitted that he owns Bitcoin himself. So it looks like his virtue signaling extended just far enough to appease ESG investors. You should always watch what billionaires do rather than what they say. And the fact that he's not dumping his Bitcoin, and the fact that obviously he knows how Bitcoin works. He must have studied it before he bought Bitcoin. At least I hope he did. Watch what billionaires do, not what they say. And he's not dumping any of his own Bitcoin. And Elon knows that Bitcoin incentivizes renewable energy. How do we know that he knows this? Well, there's a tweet from Jack Dorsey saying that Bitcoin incentivizes renewable energy. I've talked about this a lot on my channel, and we have Musk's comment reply just April 21st saying true. And so this is the more evidence behind my thesis that Musk is really just trying to appease ESG investors here. I'll link to a few articles that talk about all the renewable and clean energy sources that are used for Bitcoin mining, whether it's in Iceland, whether it's using helping oil companies rather than venting their natural gas and wasting it, using it instead to drive Bitcoin miners, companies like Upstream Data as well. So I'll link to all of these if you want to research it. I'll also link to a recent study. This is from September 2020, in which it finds that this is the University of Cambridge Judge Business School. They did a study of Bitcoin proof of work mining. Is actually they did for all the different cryptocurrencies. I believe this isn't just Bitcoin, but the Bitcoin's obviously the largest piece of it. Survey findings estimate that on average 39% of proof of work mining is powered by renewable energy, primarily hydroelectric energy. And so this is very important to remember. The amount of energy powering Bitcoin miners that's used, that's renewable energy, has also been going up. You'll often hear it cited that there's all this Bitcoin mining going on in China. One of the reasons for this, obviously, is that's where a lot of the ASICs are made, and the chips and the components needed for Bitcoin mining. Also, China has very low electricity costs. Again, it's important to remember that Bitcoin miners are portable. If something goes wrong in China, if something goes wrong in one part of China, you can just pick up the miners and go somewhere else. There's no law that Bitcoin mining has to be done in a certain location, like gold mining or lithium mining. It's unclear how much Bitcoin is actually mined in China versus being mined through mining pools that are in China. But even if a lot of it is still mined in China, I believe it's less than 50% at this point. Less than 50% of the hash rate is coming from China. But a lot of people talk about the fact that China uses 2/3 of its electricity generation comes from coal. But what they don't realize is that 80% of Chinese Bitcoin mining occurs in the Sichuan province using electricity, hydroelectricity, and other renewables like wind. So there actually is a lot of clean Bitcoin mining being done in China as well. I've mentioned this in other videos, but wanted to point out that the internet uses 10% of global electricity, And when you actually break down the usage, I would imagine that most of it goes towards streaming pornography. In terms of the bandwidth, cat videos, people fighting with each other. I'm fine with people. I don't like a lot of these uses. I think pornography is a drug. It hijacks your dopamine system. It's not something I support. That being said, no, people should not be told what to do with their electricity. And the same people who criticize Bitcoin miners for its use of electricity, they never criticize the internet. In fact, they're posting these things on the internet. They never suggest that we should stop using the internet because some of it is using dirty electricity, or the fact that it just uses so much electricity. In a free market, in a capitalist system, if you pay for the electricity, you should be able to use it for whatever you want, for moral uses, for immoral uses. And it's sometimes very difficult to decide which is which. And I think people and the free market should decide what the electricity should be used for. And one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that the highest use for the energy used by Bitcoin miners is for Bitcoin mining. No one segregates off this electricity and says it's just for Bitcoin miners. This is electricity that anyone can buy. And as it turns out, Bitcoin miners must be paying the best price for it. Otherwise, the sellers of this electricity would give it to someone else. So the free market has determined that the highest use of the energy that's consumed by these Bitcoin miners is for Bitcoin mining, almost by definition. So to conclude, Bitcoin consumes a lot of energy, and advanced civilizations consume a lot of energy. And I think it's very hypocritical, especially people living in developed countries, to have these idealistic dreams of returning to a zero energy civilization while they have their internet, they have their iPhones, they have their plumbing, they have their electricity, etc. They have all these advances, and yet they think that living in a lower energy environment would be better. These people are free to move to the poorer parts of South America, Asia, or Africa if that's how they really want to live. But the people who live in those parts of the world are obviously trying to live more like North Americans and Europeans and East Asians. Fortunately, the universe contains many sources of energy. There's essentially infinite energy in the universe. And this energy will be harnessed by future technologies. We already have wind and solar. Nuclear fusion will be on its way. Power from biological sources like algae, tidal power, space-based solar energy, Dyson spheres wrapping stars. This is the energy future. And it's good to know because the future is going to use a lot of energy, and it's nice to know that there's a lot of energy out there. Meanwhile, Bitcoin miners are not subsidized by anyone. They are capitalist enterprises, and they are incentivized to choose and find the cheapest sources of electricity. And ultimately, the cheapest sources of electricity will be environmentally friendly sources. And this is going to be a problem for utility companies. How do you run a business when the marginal cost of producing new energy goes to zero? The marginal cost of new wind energy or solar energy really is zero, especially as the manufacturing processes get cheaper and cheaper. So energy is really, especially energy in the form of electricity, is quickly trending toward environmental and free electricity. In addition, as we mentioned, a lot of Bitcoin miners use natural gas that would otherwise be wasted, or other stranded energy sources. It's important to compare Bitcoin not to some idealistic pie in the sky financial system that doesn't exist, some system that doesn't use any energy and doesn't have any waste, but you have to compare it to the existing fiat financial system as well as other potential systems. And the current fiat financial system is characterized by wasteful, polluting wars, huge amounts of government waste, ugly bank branches, ATM machines. All of these things have an environmental footprint and a carbon footprint. And I don't hear anyone criticizing them who criticizes Bitcoin's proof of work algorithm. So the answer to the question, did Elon Musk kill Bitcoin? Of course not. Bitcoin is much bigger than any one person, institution, or country. And if you're not on board with Bitcoin, you eventually get left behind. And I'm sure Musk knows this, and when he's able to reverse his position, he will become a net buyer of Bitcoin again for Tesla. Bitcoin is for the world. It's not for American billionaires. It's not for beneficiaries of the current fiat financial system. It's for unbanked people. It's for people who don't have a place to store the fruits of their labor. It's for anyone who's living in a country where the currency is being debased. US dollars being debased, but not quite as badly as places like Zimbabwe or Venezuela or Turkey or Lebanon, and the list goes on. And it's really hypocritical and unfair for Americans in particular to tell other people that they don't deserve to have banking services just because we don't like the fact that Bitcoin uses a lot of energy to secure the value that is stored in the protocol. I'd encourage you, if you have a Tesla, I don't currently own a Tesla, sell your Tesla and buy some Bitcoin with this dip. After Musk doing this, I will never buy a Tesla, at least until he reverses his position. I don't like virtue signaling, and it's sad to see a very powerful billionaire having to do it. I think Elon is much better than that. Elon's one of the best things that human civilization has going for it. He's a genius. I like what he's doing. But what he did here was really unacceptable, and it really set back Bitcoin, at least temporarily, because now we have to fight this energy FUD again and again and again. And people can use, naive people who don't understand how Bitcoin works, can use Elon's words against us. And after having already made multiple videos on Bitcoin's energy usage, it's sort of frustrating to have to come back to this. And I think Elon should be ashamed of himself, pumping Dogecoin and now doing this to Bitcoin. But it doesn't matter. No one can kill Bitcoin. And if you're on the wrong side of Bitcoin, you will end up looking like a fool to future generations. I should also point out that nothing has really changed with Bitcoin. We're still in this very wide trading range from, call it 44,000 up to 64,000. We did have quite a violent sell-off yesterday, late afternoon and evening. Sell-off was reversed by Bitcoin dip buyers at this 48,000 level that we've seen before. And Bitcoin does seem to really not want to trade below 50,000 for any extended period of time. I would also point out that this long consolidation period that we've been in really since the beginning or mid-February, this is building a base for the next move up. And while it's very frustrating, I've talked about how it's been frustrating. It's been like watching paint dry or watching grass grow, and it's been bad for leveraged longs. It's been bad for leveraged shorts. Bitcoin does reward patience. And the fact that we're having this very long trading range is establishing a new price floor and a new base from which Bitcoin can take off on its next leg up. I'm still confident that Bitcoin will be at $100,000 sometime this summer and $200,000 at least by the end of the year. And if you bought this dip, as I did, congratulations. You are strong and you will be around for this journey. If you're someone who gets really stressed out by the latest tweet from Elon or the latest energy FUD or other FUD about Bitcoin, you really need to perhaps consider not owning Bitcoin until you've done the research yourself and you really understand it in your own mind and in your own heart how Bitcoin works. If you don't have this conviction, you will never be around for the ride to $1 million and beyond per Bitcoin. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.